Probably a lot of ceramics, if I remember right, and my little assistant Yoshi here is going to help me. So let's try to open that box. Want to help? There you go. So it doesn't feel very heavy, so I don't think there's going to be any ceramics in this one. Alright, we're going to go through this again, piece by piece. Alright, on today's episode, we are going to start the Halloween season. How do I know that the Halloween season is beginning? Well, we were just at Lowe's today, and they already have their Halloween stuff out. So, let spooky season begin. Today, we are going to be doing a couple things. We're going to be going through these 4 tote boxes full of vintage Halloween decorations that I found last year up in my my parents' attic. The house where I grew up. So I've kind of gone through them a little bit, cleaned some stuff up, but I can't honestly remember what's in them, so we're going to be kind of like rediscovering this all together. There's some really cool stuff in here. And also, we got to make another repair to our 12-foot skeleton head. Now, if you guys follow this channel, you remember last October we did a trunk or treat episode, and on that episode, we put our 12-foot skeleton, took him and put him in half, and then we put him in the back of our trunk, and that was our trunk or treat for the year. And we've been doing that every year since we got a Skelly. And on the way home, it was very windy, and being lazy, I didn't take the head off. So on the way home, with this thing still in the trunk, the head blew off, and it got cracked up pretty good. So we're going to be doing another repair using our plastic welder. So if you're interested in all this, stick around and check it out. Okay, so what we're going to be seeing today is probably a lot of ceramics, if I remember right, and my little assistant Yoshi here is going to help me. So let's try to open that box. Want to help? There you go. So we'll take the lid off, and we are going to go through this. Now I'm going to use Google Lens looking at this stuff because I don't really actually know what this stuff is. All I can tell you is that with these ceramics, I had an aunt who owned a ceramic store, and these are at least from the early to mid 80s. These ceramics are, and she got these things and hand painted them, and that's how we wound up with most of this stuff. So let's start going through this stuff one by one, shall we? Alright, here we go. And by the way, this is going to be part 1 of our vintage Halloween hunting at home, because this is just the stuff I found outside, so the rest of this is going to be inside stuff that we have.
Daddy?
Yeah.
It stopped raining.
Yes, it did. It's been raining here, so that's why we decided to do this today. Okay, so first up is a vintage ceramic haunted house ghost Grim Reaper from 1978, and it's actually earlier than I thought it was going to be. Again, I'm Google Lensing all this stuff, and this is the first and only thing I've seen, and it's on eBay, and it's considered a Lefauve, Lefauve ceramic haunted house from 1978 again. And again, this is from my aunt's old ceramic shop. So I will take you around this thing, and we'll check it out as we go. The only thing I see that it's missing is there appears to have been a base for it. It looks almost like a grassy base that this thing would sit on, and I don't appear to have that. So let's check this thing out a little closer. So we'll take a closer look at this. The video might not do it justice, but this thing's got some really, really fine details that you probably can't see on the video. But keep in mind this was hand painted, which is really cool. Probably in some cases a lost art that doesn't really get done very often anymore with ceramics. Just look at how, again, detailed this thing is. Even the back of it, which you probably wouldn't normally see, she definitely took some time and did this. And I can see that it looks like it was cracked at one point and glued together, so I guess these things happen. Very cool piece. Again, the La Fave Haunted House from 1978. Alright, next up we have, and all I can find is it says a collectible statue from 1988, a howling wolf figurine featuring a detailed campfire scene. And there's really not much else that I can see. There's no marking on the bottom. It doesn't say a manufacturer or anything, so I can't really get too much more in detail. We'll take a closer look at this one. Alright, so this one seems to have a little bit of damage. You can see those white spots. Looks like chip paint a little bit, which is okay considering its age. I remember this being on our mantle on Halloween. This was one of our, we always put these things up, and it had a, there's a little spot for a light, probably a flickering light bulb you put in there, which you can easily get another one of if you have to. But what a cool piece, though. Wolfman, look at the wolf in the middle. Looks like he got into a fight. Got a little bandage on his nose. Let's see the back of this guy. Again, another hand-painted item from the same ceramic shop. Pretty detailed. A little bit of damage with this one. Even here you can see a piece of the bone is missing. And there we have it, the vintage werewolf figurine from 1988. So just for completeness, I'll cover this one a little bit. I don't get any sort of special on Google Images with this. It just is a skeleton, that this ceramic. It doesn't look like it was even part of those hand-painted items, but it was stuck in the ceramics box. It's got a light in there you can see. Again, nothing special, but just for completeness I'm going to do it. And that pretty much concludes this box number 1. Alright, we're on to box number 2 here. So, it doesn't feel very heavy, so I don't think there's going to be any ceramics in this one. Alright, we're going to go through this again piece by piece. Google Lens some stuff that are interesting and see what we can come up with. Alright, next up is this vintage prop called the Shaking, Shrieking Grim Reaper. And again, this is all Google Lens. So an animated hanging decoration produced by Jemmy, starting in 1993, which sounds about right, because my first initial searches showed me that this was from Spirit Halloween in 2002. I can see where it's confused, because there's probably so many things that look just like this, So it's sound activated, and I don't have, maybe in later videos I'll actually put some batteries and just see what these things will do. But, or maybe at the end of this, if I have time, I'll put some batteries in some of this stuff and see them in action if I have more. Again, it's from Jemmy, often part of the Shaking Spirits or Halloween Factory lines, which is cool. And they primarily made this from between 1993 and 1997. Alright, I'll take a closer look at this guy. So I do remember this thing, and I do remember the eyes would light up and kind of flicker. It would shake, and I think it would make like that vintage just kind of shriek sound that these things used to make. But really cool face. They definitely don't make this stuff like this anymore. And there it is, the vintage shaking, shrieking Grim Reaper. From anywhere between 1992 to 1997. Alright, so I'm going to kind of lump these two together. If you remember these things, these are vintage melted plastic popcorn witch and pumpkin decorations. It says from the 70s, so that would mean that they probably were the same design in the 80s too. But they're a little faded because I believe, if I remember correctly, we used to hang these in the window starting in September, so I'm assuming that probably the sun after all those years would have kind of faded these. Again, they're probably 40 plus years old at this point. And again, these are kind of like melted plastic. They call them melted plastic popcorn decorations. But either way, pretty cool. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on these, but they are one of the cooler things that I have. They're faded, and they have the same design on both sides. This is a vintage plastic jack-o'-lantern blow mold decoration, and it's again one of those things that if you were around in the 80s, most people had one of these things, usually sitting in their window or hanging in their window, or however you fixed it to the window. But I specifically remember putting this in the picture window in our kitchen over the years. You know, what's cool about what I do here is I don't go out and buy new stuff. This is all things that either I hung on to as a child, or my parents have hung on to, and I'm just kind of like reclaiming it and kind of giving it life by putting it on, on a video here, and hopefully preserving it for another generation to enjoy and look at. But I say that, but if you watch my episode on the Halloween 3 Season of the Witch Silver Shamrock Factory bricks, yeah, I bought those because once I saw that you could do that, I had to have those, and that's probably one of the most unique movie pieces that I've got. So yeah, once in a great while I'll buy something new, but everything I show you here is something that I have and have had since my childhood. So again, there's not much to show with this one, but this is an original from most likely the early to mid 80s. Alright, next up are these hanging, a hanging witch and a hanging kind of like skeleton, or not skeleton, but a pumpkin ghost kind of thing. Best I could find was these are from the early 90s. They both take batteries. I just tried looking through the witch. There is a Velcro spot where there's kind of a battery pack, but I can't figure out how to get into it. So she has a sensor on her mouth, and I think this pumpkin ghost dude is kind of like motion activated. So can't find too much on them, but a couple of really neat pieces that I still have. If you know more about this stuff, as always, leave it in the comments and let me know what it is. I'd be curious myself. And that's it for these guys. Alright, last for this box, this brings us to some odds and ends that were just at the bottom. Appears to be some candles and some just ceramics that were bought at a store at some point. So this is a Halloween candle that comes apart. Looks like it was never used. Well, maybe it was. No, it was never used. Just put the light it, put the top on, and that's your candle. Little scarecrow candle, looks like we've used that one. A witch candle with her cat. Just a ceramic. There's the barcode. Little ceramic witch's boot. This looks like it was from the same thing. It was probably at a base somewhere, but looks like it's broken off. A little witch ceramic. Definitely fake flowers because I'm sure they've been there for 30 plus years. Another candle holder. And what I did, wasn't expecting, like a little Halloween treasure troll here, which is cool. And I don't know if you've ever seen one of these, but if you look, there's a place to attach a string right here, and you'd attach it to your ceiling, and the wings would flap, and this thing would just fly around as long as the string was. Which I'm sure it probably still has some life in it, but the wings kind of look like they're in rough shape, but still cool to have. Cool piece. And that wraps it up for this box. Alright, this brings us to I said 4 boxes. I can't count. There's only 3. But then at the end I have one more standalone I wanted to show off. But this looks like mostly ceramics in this box. So let's take a close look at each piece here. Alright, so this is definitely not one of those hand-painted ceramics. I'd be very surprised if it was, but it doesn't look like it. And I can't find a Google image search on this, so looks like you just take the top off. I don't know, maybe you put a candle in there because there's no plastic. It feels like it is ceramic, so I'm sure a candle would be okay in there. And there's no place to put one of those lights with the cords on it in there. But neat piece anyway. Top back on. It is detailed. This ceramic here I can't find an exact match for, but I definitely know this was from my aunt's ceramic shop and hand painted. So we're gonna guess it's probably from the 80s. Early to mid, most likely. And it's just nothing fancy, just a ceramic with a cat looking down on the pumpkin. As you can see, there's a long wire mess there. Let's take a closer look at this guy. So it's in very good shape considering its age. I don't see too many blemishes even on the paint. A couple chips on the cat. But eyes are cool. You can see on the back where the light goes in. If I ever really wanted to light these up, I've got some old C9 light bulbs from old strings of Christmas lights somewhere around here. I could just change out the light bulb and no doubt they'd work. I don't see any manufacturer's markings on any of these things, but I do know where that comes from. So that does it for that one. On to the next. This one I did find an exact match for. It says vintage 1980s 12-inch tall ceramic ghost, owl, jack-o'-lantern, pumpkin Halloween scene. It is from the 80s, which I kind of would have guessed myself, but very good shape considering its age, and it's probably it's been stashed away in a box. No paper, no bubble wrap or anything, so it's probably been banged around a little bit over the years, being moved and so forth. And I plan to package this up a little bit better before I put them somewhere. And someday I hope to use these things again, maybe. But we'll take a closer look at this guy. Alright, so you can see the owl on the top. Again, very nicely hand painted. And again, I don't know if anyone even does this stuff anymore. Maybe, but nobody around where I live. Like you could, I guess you could go through and touch up some of the damaged spots, but I think that would take away from the authenticity of the whole thing, and just probably just best to leave it alone, you know. Really cool Halloween scene. And again, if you can picture this on an old, I grew up in an old farmhouse, and they had a really big fireplace mantle, and this stuff was always on the mantle, well, lit up most of the time. The more you look at it, the more you see you got little goblins or something at the bottom. Anyway, that's it for this one. So this brings us to our last ceramic, at least for now, that I can find. There may be more to come. Like I said, this is just part one of potentially a multi-part series of vintage Halloween hunting at home. But again, this is another hand-painted ceramic item, most likely from the 80s. You know, I guess what's unique about these ceramics is that you probably don't ever get one that's the same as the other because they're hand-painted. Maybe they came with certain, you know, ways, you know, probably some sort of a guide how to paint these, but I think maybe in most cases these things were just free hand painted, and you just kind of did what you wanted to with them. But take a closer look at this guy. So again, got your typical jack-o'-lantern face on it. This one's in immaculate shape as far as the paint goes. You can even see, you know, the dark spots where probably little hints of brown were painted in there in the creases of the pumpkin. And I would have no idea how you'd get another cord in there if you wanted to. I guess you'd have to clip the bulb end and then splice another one in at the other end through the mouth or something. That's not your typical retainer clip type light. First time I'd seen anything like that. So yeah, that's it for the ceramics. So last but certainly not least is something that I didn't even know I had, and this was of any significance, but apparently this is a very sought after blow mold. Maybe there's more from this maker, called Dawn Featherstone by Union Products, I believe, from the early to mid 90s. I didn't know that this was anything special until we were watching. We watched videos from this guy on. He used to be mostly on YouTube, but now he's on Facebook and some other social media platforms. His name is Dinosaur Dracula. And if you want to check out somebody cool, check out Dinosaur Dracula. He does all this stuff and more. He definitely focuses mostly on Halloween, and he does a lot with the old McDonald's stuff. So if you want to check out Dinosaur Dracula, I can do some links at the bottom and check him out. But anyway, we were watching a video on this, and my daughter said, "Hey, we got that in the garage." I said, "We do?" So that day I came out to the garage and went in the back and dug through some stuff, and I found it. I said, "Wow, this is exactly what Dinosaur Dracula was talking about." So let's take a closer look at this Dawn Featherstone haunted house blow mold. So it is in very good shape, and I know that this was outside all Halloween season, lit up at night, because now that I found it, I remember specifically having this, and we also had just a generic pumpkin blow mold. And I believe I saw a marking on this somewhere on the back. So anyway, on the back it's just a It's got a spot for a light. It's a little dry rotted. See if I can find. Can't see it too well, but right here is a marking for this. 1995 Union product, something or other. Union. I don't know. I can't really read it. But it's definitely a Dawn Featherstone, which, again, I really knew nothing about. Didn't know what I had here. The only issue I can see is that it's got kind of a crack here. It's got a place to fill it up with sand, which the sand's all leaked out probably through this hole here. But that's it. The Dawn Featherstone blow mold from 1995. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do here is I need to repair my broken Skelly head, 12-foot Skelly head from Home Depot. This is my original, and I'm not going to go crazy on this because all I use this for now, since I have one of the new scary Skelly heads for the 12-foot skeleton that I actually put up in the yard. This is what I use for our trunk or treat that I do every year. So, if you didn't watch I guess it was our second video we did, I did a pretty significant repair on our 12-foot skeleton, got blown over, and I repaired the shoulder part. If you're curious about that, I guess you're just going to have to watch our older videos. So, scroll down to the bottom and you'll see our second video is about fixing and putting up our 12-foot skeleton. So how do I do it? I use a plastic welder. They make these are a dime a dozen on Amazon. You take, again, if you want, I'm going to go quick on this, but if you take these little staples, they go in the end here, it's kind of like, they act like a heating element. You pull the trigger, they heat up, they sink into the plastic, and it essentially welds the plastic shut. So, I am going to put the video camera on the tripod, cue the ooky spooky kooky music, and speed the video up, and we'll do the repair real quick. Stay tuned and enjoy. I threw some staples in there, and I'll show you what it looks like. You can see it melts in there. It gives you like a zigzag pattern, which makes it pretty structural. So if you feel, I didn't go crazy with this because I don't really care how it looks too much, and it's solid as a rock now. So short of it falling and breaking in, it's definitely gonna be okay. It's for what I'm gonna use it for. Even if I did put it back up on the skeleton, it's still gonna be okay. Although I don't believe the eyes are gonna work anymore because it took a pretty good hit. But you can see where all the cracks are. I didn't get everything, and again, like right here, I probably could have made that look a little prettier, but I'm not too worried about it. It's not wobbly anymore. It's not going to break apart. So that's it. That's the repair using a plastic welder on our 12-foot skeleton again. I forgot to mention, you can see where the spikes come up with parts of the staples. So what you do is you take again, I think I explained this in my other video, you just take wire cutters and you clip them all off. If there's one thing I don't like about how this works, and I'm sure there's something that you can do to maybe take some plastic and melt it over, where these holes, or not where the holes, but where these little spikes come out. No matter how close you get, you still get something that sticks up, and if you catch it, grab it just right, you can get punctured pretty good. So, but for right now, this is good enough for me. Again, it serves its purpose. I rebuilt, which I didn't think I was going to be able to do, and it was like putting a puzzle back together. Rebuilt the entire shoulder piece and rib cage of our 12-foot skeleton, so it can be done. With an extensive repair like that, it definitely takes time. But and then again, this plastic welder, it can be used for all kinds of things. Anything plastic around your house. My little guy has this John Deere side-by-side, and he's crashed the front end so much in the compartment where you take the battery in and out of is broken in 3 places, so it constantly pops off. Actually, now that I've got the welder out, I'm probably going to fix that also while I'm at it. So yeah, that's the skeleton repair. Alright, so that's it for this vintage Halloween hunting at home part 1 video from just beyond the cornfield. And a bonus, we repaired the 12-foot skeleton again. If you like what we do here, subscribe, check out our older videos. We're getting better as they go, and I plan on doing more content than I have in the past. Just been busy, and it's summertime, and we're out doing summertime things. But hey, happy Summerween. Halloween's begun. Lowe's have got their Halloween stuff starting to come out, as we saw today. And we will see you next time on Just Beyond the Cornfield.